Real-time parodies and memes are flooding every corner of social media, mocking not just a moment but a marriage, a life built over years torn down in 16 seconds, and those 16 seconds were all it took for Andy Byron, a multi-millionaire tech CEO, to become the punchline of the internet's most unforgiving joke. You've probably seen the clip by now. It wasn't just an awkward encounter, it was a slow-motion car crash of emotion, humiliation, denial, and heartbreak. Playing out on a jumbotron screen in front of tens of thousands, she turned her back to him. The crowd gasped and he leaned down squirming, trying to hide his face from the camera, as if shame could make him invisible, but the damage was already done because neither of them were each other's spouses, and within hours, what could have been a fleeting, awkward moment turned into a full-scale investigation. The man was Andy Byron, the head of a billion-dollar company, and the woman Kristen Kitt, the chief of human resources of the same company, and the woman at home, the one who shared his name, his children, and likely his dreams. Megan Byron was not in that frame, but she was the one who paid the highest price. What followed was a total unraveling of not just careers and reputations, but of trust and dignity. Andy lost his job. He stepped down as CEO of Astronomer 3 days after the clip went viral, replaced on an interim basis by his co-founder, Pete DeJoy, while Kristen Kitt, the woman seen turning her back to the camera, has been placed on indefinite leave. Her LinkedIn still carries the title of Chief People Officer, but the silence from the company about her future says more than any official statement. Could Astronomer's public statement, trying to maintain polish, only made the public more furious? How can a company claim to stand for values and integrity when its top two leaders were caught breaking the very code they were supposed to enforce behind closed doors? The company was crumbling. Employees flooded Slack channels with memes mocking the kiss cam moment. Some laughing, some horrified. One employee said, "We always knew they were close, but never imagined this close." Rumors about how long this had been going on grew louder, and the consequence
to the story everyone's talking about. The CEO caught on kiss cam at a Coldplay concert, snuggling with his head of human resources. Today, there are serious questions whether they will be
hired outside legal counsel to run a full investigation. But even as the company scrambled, something deeper, more intimate was being shattered in real time. Megan Byron, Andy's wife of over a decade, the mother of his two children, the woman who built a life with him, quietly vanished from social media. She dropped his name, removed old photos, and left behind silence. No statements, no explanations, just the haunting quiet of someone who no longer owed anyone an explanation. The internet noticed and responded, not with ridicule, but with solidarity. Strangers lifted her up, calling her the real victim, the queen who deserved better. Thousands of comments flooded old photos, encouraging her to leave him and never look back. And for once, the internet got it right, because this wasn't just a scandal, it was a betrayal of the most devastating kind, not whispered in secret, but blasted in high definition on a screen bigger than most living rooms. Andy didn't just cheat. He humiliated his wife, his children, and the trust they placed in him, the family home, the shared holidays, the bedtime stories, the quiet moments of love and understanding, all tainted by a public act of selfishness. What makes this story even more tragic is that Kristen Kitt wasn't single either. She too was married and, according to property records, had recently bought a home with her husband, who reportedly is the CEO of Privateer Rum. Another man suddenly pulled into the debris field of a scandal he never signed up for. The pain radiated beyond corporate boardrooms. It shook homes, broke vows, and left children confused and heartbroken. The kind of betrayal that doesn't just leave you angry, it leaves you empty, wondering how someone you trusted could turn into a stranger so quickly. Two marriages are now on the brink, two families shattered, and two careers once filled with promise now forever tied to a viral clip, a moment of thoughtlessness that revealed deeper truths about character, loyalty, and respect. Megan Byron, Andy's wife of over a decade, the mother of his two children, the woman who built a life with him, quietly vanished from social media. She dropped his name, removed old photos, and left behind silence. No statements, no explanations, just the haunting quiet of someone who no longer owed anyone an explanation. The internet noticed and responded, not with ridicule, but with solidarity. Strangers lifted her up, calling her the real victim, the queen who deserved better. Thousands of comments flooded old photos, encouraging her to leave him and never look back. And for once, the internet got it right, because this wasn't just a scandal. It was a betrayal of the most devastating kind, not whispered in secret, but blasted in high definition on a screen bigger than most living rooms. Andy didn't Just he humiliated his wife, his children, and the trust they placed in him, the family. Home, the shared holidays, the bedtime stories, the quiet moments of love and understanding, all tainted by a public act of selfishness. What makes this story even more tragic is that Kristen Kitt wasn't single either. She too was married and, according to property records, had recently bought a home with her husband, who reportedly is the CEO of Privateer. Another man suddenly pulled into the debris field of a scandal he never signed up for. The pain radiated beyond corporate boardrooms. It shook homes, broke vows, and left children confused and heartbroken. The kind of betrayal that doesn't just leave you angry, it leaves you empty, wondering how someone you trusted could turn into a stranger so quickly. 2 marriages are now on the brink. 2 families shattered, and 2 careers once filled with promise now forever tied to a viral clip, a moment of thoughtlessness that revealed deeper truths about character, loyalty, and respect. As the days passed, the internet did what it always does. When scandal breaks, it feasted on the chaos. Mascots from major league teams began mocking the kiss cam moment, recreating Andy's now infamous duck and cover scene as if it were comedy, not tragedy. From the Philly Fanatic to the Savannah Bananas, even national broadcasters like SportsCenter joined in, and what started as awkward became absurd. Etsy listings popped up selling mug shirts and tote bags with freeze frames from the concert moment, capitalizing on heartbreak as if it were merchandise. Reddit threads dissected every frame, analyzing the turn of Kristen's shoulder, the angle of Andy's slouch, trying to determine intent as if this were a crime scene, and maybe it was the crime of carelessness, a betrayal of thinking your actions don't echo beyond the moment. Some came to Andy's defense, saying it was a private moment made public, but that argument doesn't hold up. This wasn't behind closed doors. This was a concert, a public space with a kiss cam and an audience, and the betrayal wasn't just personal, it was performed, and whether they meant to or not, they dragged their loved ones into a public nightmare they will never forget. In 2025, cheating isn't just a private sin, it's a viral spectacle, and once the internet sees it never unsees it. Andy Byron thought resignation would end the story, but it only made it easier for the public to turn him into a meme, a lesson, a cautionary tale. In the days that followed, Megan was no longer just Andy's wife. She became a symbol of every woman who gave everything to a man who cannot see the value of loyalty and the gravity of public humiliation. Mothers commented about the pain she must feel trying to explain to her children why daddy is all over the internet and not in their home. Bedtime routines, now broken traditions, shattered birthdays spent in whispers rather than joy. In every news cycle that refuses to move on keeps reopening a wound that has barely begun to scab over. Andy's career is over for now, but the internet has a memory that refuses to forget, and Kristen's silence is loud in telling her marriage, her job, her title, all suspended in a cloud of shame and speculation. Because even if apologies are made, even if statements are crafted, the world already decided this was betrayal, dressed in designer suits made under the lights of a stadium where cheers turned into gasps and loyalty turned into dust. The world watched as a single camera angle destroyed a life that once seemed so perfect, polished, protected. And beneath that stadium light, what the internet truly saw was not just 2 people who made a mistake, but a larger truth about modern power and modern betrayal. Andy Byron was not just a man who cheated, he was a man entrusted with the faith of employees, families, investors, and a wife who believed his promises would be kept in private and public. But what the public saw was not a private moment leaked, it was a public performance, a decision to embrace something forbidden in a place built for spectacle. And when that spectacle turned on him, he became the face of failure, the face of a lie unraveling in real time. And while the internet turned him into a meme, Megan, his wife, turned invisible. The woman who stood beside him in the photos on company brochures, on holiday cards, and boardroom banquets was gone. Her silence louder than any press release, and her disappearance felt like the only act of dignity left when everything else was ripped away. And Kristen Kitt, who once shaped company policy, now became the symbol of hypocrisy in heels. Her job was to uphold ethics and protect boundaries, but now her name was trending not for her work, but for the man she leaned into and the wife she helped betray her own marriage. Now a mystery, her husband caught in the shadows of a drama he never asked to star in, and yet the pain wasn't only emotional, it was structural. Investors pulled back, meetings were canceled, lawyers stepped in, and astronomer, the company they both helped build, began to tremble beneath the weight of scandal. Because when leadership breaks, so does the trust beneath it. Employees started whispering about past behavior, stories resurfaced, questions arose. Was this really just one moment or the tip of something bigger? Because Power unchecked is dangerous, and intimacy within the walls of a company can rot the foundation from within. And now 2 lives, once elevated by titles and power, were being reduced to thumbnails and gifs and sound bites, played on late-night television, used in marketing slides for ethics presentations, and mocked by comedians who never once knew their names until they became mistakes gone viral. And all the while, the families at home were picking up the pieces, explaining the inexplicable to children too young to understand. Betrayal, but old enough to feel its silence when daddy isn't home, when mommy stops smiling, when school pickup becomes awkward and social media becomes cruel. This is not just the story of a failed kiss cam. It is the anatomy of destruction when pride wins over privacy, and when love is traded for ego and image. The world watched as a single camera angle destroyed a life that once seemed so perfect, so polished, so protected. And beneath the harsh glare of a stadium light, what the internet truly saw was not just 2 people who made a mistake, it was the unmasking of a larger truth about the fragility of modern power and the quiet violence of modern betrayal. Andy Byron was not just a man who cheated, he was a man trusted with more than just quarterly numbers and corporate strategy. He was entrusted with the faith of his employees, the hopes of families, the belief of investors, and above all, the loyalty of a wife who once believed that the promises he made in private were the same ones he would honor in public. But what the public saw in that viral frame was not some hidden moment exposed. It was a willful decision, a public performance wrapped in privilege, a choice to reach for something forbidden in a space built for spectacle and ego. And when that spectacle turned on him, when the applause turned into gasps and the whispers into headlines, he became the face of failure, the embodiment of a lie unraveling in real time, stripped of the armor his title once gave him, reduced to pixels, broadcast into millions of phones with no warning and no way back. And as the internet did what it always does, turning scandal into satire and betrayal into branded content, Megan, his wife, turned invisible. The woman who once stood beside him in photos, in company brochures, in holiday newsletters, in boardroom banquets, was now gone, her absence louder than any crisis statement, her silence sharper than any spin strategy. Her disappearance became the last shred of dignity in a story that had already stripped her of everything else. And then there was Kristen Kitt, the woman who once helped draft the company's ethics policy, the woman who hosted diversity seminars, who signed off on our codes, who championed boundaries and workplace equity. And now she was trending not for a keynote speech or a company milestone, but because of a kiss, a lean moment that exposed not just a betrayal but a hypocrisy in heels. And as her own marriage came into question, her husband became collateral damage, a man caught in the vortex of a story he never asked to join, a supporting character in a tragedy that made no space for dignity. And the pain wasn't just emotional, it was institutional, structural, systemic, because when leadership cracks, the fracture runs through the foundation. Investors grew cautious, meetings were postponed, lawyers entered rooms once reserved for celebration, and astronomer, the company they both helped build with vision and sweat, began to shake beneath the weight of scandal, not because of one act, but because of what that act revealed. That behind the curated images and mission statements and values posters was a reality far messier and far more human. Employees whispered, shared stories, re-examined past interactions. The question in the air was not just how, but for how long. How long had lines been crossed? How long had accountability been absent? How long had power gone unchecked? Because in any institution, intimacy without boundaries doesn't just corrode, it infects trust, morale, culture. And soon it was clear this wasn't just a moment, this was a reckoning. This was the tip of something deeper and darker. And now 2 people once elevated by titles, invites, keynote slots, and glossy magazine profiles were being reduced to thumbnails and gifs and viral memes, dissected by pundits, joked about by late-night hosts, repackaged as case studies for ethics presentations in business schools, and satirized by comedians who couldn't have spelled their names a week earlier but now knew them only as symbols of public implosion. And while all of this played out on screens across the world, something quieter was happening away from the cameras in living rooms and bedrooms and school drop-offs. Families were picking up the pieces, trying to make sense of something that made no sense at all. Children too young to understand infidelity, but old enough to feel its silence. When daddy isn't home, when mommy doesn't smile, when routine feels broken, when classmates repeat what they overheard at home or online, the damage spread like smoke, not always seen but deeply inhaled. And it wasn't just the individuals caught in the lens who suffered, it was the assistants who lost sleep, the interns who lost trust, the partners who lost deals, the staff who lost faith in leadership and in the idea that merit ever really mattered in a world where proximity to power could still overrule principle. This is not just the story of a failed kiss cam, it is the anatomy of destruction it is a warning about. What happens when pride wins over privacy, when love is traded for ego, when success becomes entitlement and image becomes addiction? When leaders forget that their legacy is not written by their achievements but by what they choose to protect and who they choose to hurt in the pursuit of more. And now, long after the lights have dimmed and the audience has scrolled past another headline, the lives behind the moment remain changed, bruised, emptied, and forced to live in the echo of a spectacle that the world never asked for but never stopped watching. In the aftermath of the kiss cam collapse, Andy Byron and Kristen Kitt have become more than just the faces of a scandal. They have become the cautionary tale, the punchline, the headline, but more importantly, they have become the catalyst for a public reckoning about what loyalty means in the era of surveillance and what betrayal looks like when the whole world is watching. No amount of apologies will unsee what has already been seen, and no clever PR campaign will undo the pain etched into the hearts of those they left behind, because in the end, the real story is not just about two executives caught on camera. It is about the wife who was left to carry the shame of someone else's choices, about the children who now grow up with questions no parent should ever have to answer, about the colleagues who lost faith in the people meant to lead them, and about the brokenness left in the wake of unchecked power and selfish desire. And while Andy Byron may eventually resurface with a new title or startup, and Kristen Kitt may find another boardroom to enter, what they cannot take back is the moment they chose themselves over everyone else they claim to care about. They cannot take back the pain, the silence, the shattered trust, because once loyalty is broken, it rarely mends the same, and the internet may move on to the next trending disaster, but the echo of this one will remain in boardrooms, in marriages, and whispered conversations about why we must be careful who we trust and what we risk, and we forget that behind every mistake there is someone who didn't deserve the fallout. Megan Byron deserved better, their children deserved better, even the employees of Astronomer deserved better, and yet all they got was a viral moment and an aftermath that keeps spiraling, because when the world watched Andy duck that camera, what it really saw was a man ducking accountability. A man who didn't flinch out of fear but out of guilt, and that is a lesson that cannot be undone. That is a truth that lives long after the memes have faded, because in the story of Kiss Cam Karma, the real headline is not that two people got caught. The real headline is that two families were broken and one woman's quiet disappearance said more about pain than any press conference ever could.
This video covers legal allegations in a news context. All claims are from official filings and no guilt is implied until proven in court. Please keep all discussions respectful. Allegations are not facts until proven in court.